All right, today we're jumping into something big. We're breaking down a really critical take on a new kind of war. It's a conflict that's not fought on some distant battlefield with tanks and planes, but right inside our own minds. This is about the war for reality itself.
So, to really get our heads around this, let's start with this powerful idea from way back in 1968. What this tells us is that wars don't just happen. They're built. They start with stories, with ideas, with the beliefs that shape how we see everything around us.
And that's exactly where this new concept comes in. You can think of it as a new strategic battleground, one designed specifically to protect our thoughts in this crazy digital age we're all living in.
So, what is cognitive security? You'll see it called CogSec for short. And really, at its heart, it's all about building a defense system for your brain. It's about making sure that you are the one in charge of how you process information, form your own beliefs, and make decisions without bad actors trying to manipulate you from the shadows.
Now, what's kind of wild is that this isn't some brand new idea. I mean, look at this timeline. The folks who wrote this piece see CogSec as just the latest chapter in a story that's been going on for 2,500 years. We're talking a direct line from ancient philosophers like Plato and Aristotle all the way to modern psychology, neuroscience, and now AI. It's a really, really old question, but the threat, that's brand new.
Okay, so let's talk about that new threat, because this is where things get serious. Technology, and we're talking specifically about generative AI, has completely, and I mean completely, changed the game.
And you can really see the difference right here. You know, old school disinformation, it was slow, it was done by hand, and it was kind of like a giant billboard, aimed at everyone and no one in particular. But now, with generative AI, it's a whole different beast. It's automated, it's instant, and it can be hyper-personalized just for you. But the really scary part is how real it feels. It's not just static text anymore. It can be interactive and sounds so authentic it's almost impossible to spot.
And this is the key point. This is not just random internet trolls having fun. No. The source makes it crystal clear that governments and other powerful groups have turned these tools into weapons. They are locked in what's being called a global contest for epistemic authority. That's a pretty fancy way of saying it's a fight over what's real, a war for reality itself.
So, why should we care? I mean, what's the real-world impact of all this? Well, this is where it gets incredibly serious, because the stakes here aren't just political or some abstract idea. We are talking about real human cost. We're talking about life and death.
I mean, just look at this. The source pulls no punches here. It says flat out, disinformation kills. And they point to the war in Ukraine as a perfect and tragic example. You have Russian state media pushing these narratives for years, stories that dehumanize people, that invent fake reasons for an invasion. These aren't just lies. They are cognitive weapons, carefully built to make horrible violence seem acceptable, even necessary.
So this isn't some sci-fi problem for the future. It is happening right now, and it's a direct threat to global security. You can think of it like a poison seeping into the foundations of our world. It sparks conflict, it breaks down the trust we have in each other and in our institutions, and it just weakens society's ability to deal with, well, anything. It literally tears society apart at the seams.
So you've got this huge escalating threat from one side. But here's the crazy part. The response, especially from democratic nations, has been, well, not what you'd expect. In fact, it's created a really dangerous imbalance.
Some experts have a pretty shocking term for it: unilateral disarmament. Think about that. Right when this AI-powered threat was exploding, the very institutions in the US that were supposed to fight foreign disinformation were actually being shut down. It's kind of mind-boggling, isn't it?
And the result is this huge, growing gap that basically just hands an advantage to the bad guys. The whole information space is becoming more and more vulnerable. You've got more adversary operations and these big empty spaces where our defenses used to be.
All right, so that's the problem, and it's a big one. The obvious question is, how on earth do we fight back? How do you defend against a threat that's everywhere, all at once, and changing by the second?
Well, the answer isn't as simple as just, building a better app or a smarter algorithm to catch fakes. The source is really clear on this. The solution has to be way, way bigger.
And this is what that bigger solution looks like. It's kind of like assembling the Avengers, but for cognitive security. You've got historians digging into how language has been weaponized in the past. You've got strategists breaking down these manipulative stories. You have tech experts building AI to fight fire with fire.
And all of that knowledge gets fed to the policymakers who are trying to build the rules to keep us all safe.
So what does all this boil down to? The source calls it a whole-of-society defense, which means exactly what it sounds like. Everyone has to be involved. Yes, we absolutely need the new tech, the advanced AI, but just as important, we need companies and governments working together. We need to connect the dots between tech, education, and policy so that we're all pulling in the same direction.
So here's the real bottom line from this piece. In this new world, where our very sense of reality is under constant assault, protecting ourselves isn't just a job for nerds in a lab or professors at a university. The source argues it's something much deeper. It's a moral duty. It's a strategic imperative for our survival.
And that really brings it all back to us, doesn't it? It takes this huge, global problem and puts it right at our feet. Because if this truly is a war for reality, and if our own minds are the battlefield, then the final question is, what are you going to do about it? How will you build your own defenses?